Hello and welcome everyone to the Snap Happy 80s Love Child. As always, he is me. And today, as I promised, a week on. It's actually, I'm going to be honest here, it wasn't quite a week on. It's actually about a week and a half, nearly two, because I ended up putting that video out a couple of days later than when I got the actual camera. So, as I said, I was going to come back again and we're going to do another video, and I'm going to actually walk through some of my experiences with the Z8, give you some hands-on knowledge rather than just throwing a load of figures at you, because we can compare figures all day long, but figures don't make photos. So this is the Z8, and this is in the form it now is, with all of my bolt-ons. So we've got the L bracket. We've also got this very nice JJC eyepiece, and it does move around. So when you're doing, it's great. It locks out a lot of the light that you can sometimes get creep into the eyeglass, and it also folds back as well. I don't know if it's meant to do that, but it's good for storage. And then JJC's strap, which I said I was going to have on. And honestly, guys, these are great. Now, a couple of the guys I've been looking at on Facebook, Instagram, some of the YouTubes I've watched, they've had failures on these points here and this point here. Now, although I am actually hooked on one of the points here with this isn't swinging from my neck. I'll just touch on it briefly. I think what I've seen a lot, and I live in Alberta, so we go to Banff, we see a lot of tourists. A lot of people have quite big lenses, and they swing them off these points. I've always been a bit nervous of doing that. I value my lenses and my camera quite a lot. Like this, the loading on that point there is quite reduced. And if that was to fail, it's mounted quite strong to the bottom of the small rig, to the mount, which is mounted directly to the base of the camera. I think this is the way to go if you want to make sure that you're not going to lose this. It's a very expensive camera, and so are the lenses, so I wouldn't really suggest just hanging it on these sling points, as there has been a few failure rates recently. As for the card, so people talk a lot at the moment about how the cards overheat and cause issues. I've had no overheating. My card has not been molten. I've done high burst rates. You'll see in a minute when I go through on here. We've done some high burst rates we have for, some high burst rates for skating. And Jess got me at 120 frames a second when I was doing some skating bits. And we had no high card temperatures then. We also then switched to doing the 20 frames per second on the full burst. And again, we had no issues with overheating there either. I've also done some 8K video, not a lot. I've done some 4K video. And it's been quite hot over here. Alberta gets fairly warm. We've had some 30 days, 35 days here at the maximum. And when we were skating that day, that was hot. That was warm. And I've seen no adverse effects from the card. So I'm using, as I did show you guys when I first got the camera, I am using the Pro Grade. That's the Pro Grade Cobalt. I wasn't well off enough to buy the high memory, but I got the 165. It's worked quite well for me. So my review on the Cobalt, at the moment, it's been no issue, and I've had no overheating. So it's a good start. It's a good start. And it's backed up with, I back it up with the SanDisk. So it's a SanDisk Extreme UHC2, so it's a good card, and it's a good backup. And for your info, I also shoot RAW to the CF Express, and I shoot JPEG baked to the SD card. So I'm using the full capacity of the CF Express card. I don't use it as a backup, so I just shoot one card and one card. Now, I did say I was going to show you this lens. I was going to do some reviewing on this lens. Honestly, I said I was worried because it wasn't 2.8. It's a 4. And I'm probably not going to use this lens a lot. It's not a bad lens. And honestly, if you've just got into photography and you've decided to go balls out and buy the Z8 and you get this as your kit lens, it's not a bad lens. And I'm going to show some photos in a bit. It does perform. It just doesn't give me that low f-stop that I want. That wide open, that fast glass. It just doesn't give it. Had this been an f2 or an f2.8, don't get me wrong, I know it would be a lot bigger. It'd be more like the 70 to 200 or the 24 to 70. Had it been an f2.8 or Holy Grail, an f2 maybe, yeah, this would have been a very cool lens. But It's not bad, it's just not great. So, with that in mind, I did actually go out and buy the trilogy. We got the 50, the 35, and the 85. And that hurt my OCD to say it that way. So it'd be the 35, the 50, and the 85. This, I had the 35, and I was going to use it off of my F to Z mount adapter. And then remembered that because obviously I had a 7500, it was a crop sensor 1.8. And then I was going to go out and buy a F mount 1.8, and then I thought, I'm not going to mess around. I'll buy the Z mount. This focuses fast, as do these other two lenses. They're fast focusing lenses. They are fast glass. And yeah, I think this was a good investment. Now, I wanted the 1.2. I really do. But I got these lenses for $600 less than buying one of the 1.2s. That would have been the 85 1.2. Phenomenal glass, and I am going to get there at some point, but the outlay of that, the outlay of the Z30 I'm filming on, a couple of other things I purchased recently, I can't really push to too much more at the moment. But these guys, honestly, these are good, and I'm happy to shoot professionally with these guys. They're very good. So I'm going to do a full review on these as well. We're going to leave them there for the meantime, and you'll see some of the photos I show you will be with these guys, and there will be a couple with this. But I'm going to do a full review on them. I'm going to give you more of an overview on them, and just it's not a full review, it'll be an overview. Okay. Other things I've noticed. So weight-wise, I do not find this a heavy camera. I do not find this a big problem. I think this is actually quite a nice camera. It's a good size. The L bracket actually means that my pinky kind of holds at the bottom there, which is quite nice, because when you want to drop round like this, you get extra grip off the bottom. Yeah, I genuinely, and also quite cool. So with the small rig mount, it does actually have the ability, there we go, to have that out there. Now, it's not ideal, but you can actually use that to hold it as a secondary, which is quite handy. I don't really shoot freehand video off of this. I probably would use my gimbal if I did. And as I say, as much as I like 8K video, most of what I shoot only needs to be 1080p or 4K. So most of the time I get away with my C30. And there will be a review on that as well. I'm just going to do a little bit more of the video. So what I will say, guys, is I also had a message sent through about the music. That was me that did the music, and it will now cut from here to me demonstrating me playing the music. There we go. So to prove I do actually play, I've played for many years. I didn't nick that from anyone else. I did genuinely just record that jingle. As I recorded the video for the little zoom in and zoom out. So if you got any comments on that, direct them this way. That was 100% me. As is everything, actually. I film myself, everything. All you see is done by me. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to move over and we're going to actually look at some of the photos that I took with the camera and with some of the lenses. I'm just going to talk you through some of the bits, and we are going to talk about autofocus, as much as I know everyone loves doing that with the Z8. Okay, so if you have a look here, and here we go. So first photo I'm going to show you, this was literally the first photo I took out the whole lot. None of these photos have been edited. This was on a 70mm, so this would have been taken with, I believe this was actually on the F to Z mount, and this was taken with my older 24 to 70mm. So still very nice glass, and as you can see, very nice image quality. It zooms in well, it's got nice depth to it, and the colours in it, as I say, I like this camera, and I like Nikon's glass. I believe they get a nice colour boundary out of it. But this photo, as I say, was taken with an F to Z mount. And I will say that I've been using the F to Z, and it does give me a nice shot. It's not as fast focusing as the new primes that I got, or as fast as the 24 to 120. But it works. It's faster than my 7500, so I'm not losing anything. It just isn't as quick as the Z mounts. And then here we have with what this was with the 50mm prime, I believe. Let me just have a look. Sorry, that was, oh no, that was with my, that was with the F to Z mount again. As you can see, lovely photo with the F to Z mount with the 24 to 70mm. And you'll see there, it gives lovely depth, lovely quality. That sensor on the Z8 really, you can crop down a lot and you still see a lot of quality in it. Next one up. Again, this was just a Rode, I just took a picture of the Rode mic that's sitting here. Again, it gives a really nice quality. I have no issue using the F to Z mounts. I honestly think it's it's nicely done by Nikon. I don't notice that, as I say, I think I actually get faster zooming off of that than I did off my 7500. And I've used a couple of 850s, and I think, to be perfectly blunt, the Z8 with the F to Z still gives you quicker focus. But it's not as quick as the Z mounts. Native glass will always be faster. Here, I just want to show you guys this one. I was impressed by this. So this was actually looking on the 85mm. So the 85mm 1.8. Look at the depth you can see on that photo. You can actually see the grain. That's the grain in the printing on the cards. I'm very happy with the quality I get out of that sensor. Autofocus regardless, the quality I'm very happy with. This was my wife, so just to show you colour balance here, and this I believe was off of, what was this? This was the 50mm. So the 50mm prime. Again, I just love the colour composition of these lenses that Nikon do are brilliant. And the bokeh. I'm really pleased with the bokeh on all three of the primes. It's very nice actually. Here we go. This was when I was skating. So speed. I actually, for focus, this was at full speed and it's focused nicely on the boots, which is where she was focusing on. So no issue with the autofocus there. That did lock on and it did get it correctly. And at the time then she was using the 3D tracking. So it does work. It does lock on. She wasn't on eye, so it was lock on tracking using the 3D and the box. So nice, no issues. And here, I show you this one because subtle colours, but yet still, just wait for it to catch up, still nicely in focus, and the colours are nicely defined, even though these are quite subtle colours. As I said when I first did the first video, I like the way Nikon does colour. Here's another one. So this is our catch inks. Lock on again, 3D, and when the matte catches up, again, went straight for the eye. Locked onto the eye, nearly tack sharp. No issues at all. Now, when I actually found issues with some of the... Oh, here we go. And this is another nice one. So this was with the 35mm. Again, unedited. Nice colour composition. Beautiful bokeh. I think Nikon's lenses are really good. The options you get for the Zs, you get some lovely lenses there. Moving on, so then we've got my friend's dog. Again, this is another show of force to how good, when the focus is on, how good it actually is. Again, perfect. Tack sharp on the eye, no issues at all. Very happy with it, really. Moving on, so I want to showcase some of the 24 to 120. And this was just an early morning shoot. Just a nice early morning shoot. Nothing too strenuous on for the focus. This is just purely to show how nice that lens was. And it is a nice lens. Maybe it's better in a landscape scenario due to the fact it's the f4. This one I thought I'd show you. This was when we went out to see Barbie movie. And just the way the colours pop. I'm going to keep saying it. I just love the way they pop. This camera really brings out colour contrast nicely. This, so ISO 1250. And if you look when it finishes loading up, look how deep that goes. There's no real issues at all with that much noise, considering this is a shaded part in a showroom and it wasn't particularly well lit. So just to show how good the dynamic range is with the ISO, there wasn't an awful lot of noise. And I haven't noticed much noise in all fairness. And another key to this camera, 500 ISO. It's one of its two ranges, one of its two good native ranges. 500 ISO is perfectly fine. You'll get very low noise at 500. It's actually one of the ranges they specify as good for low noise. Moving over. So, focus issues. We were actually focused on her foot. And when the photo took, it moved focus to the grass. No reason at all. The box was on her foot. But as you can see, it's definitely not in focus. So it let me down there a little bit. And what I realised when I started messing around, I'm going to skip to this photo first, was when I tried it with 3D tracking, that bug has been totally missed. Now, it was meant to be focusing on that bug, but it hasn't. It's focused somewhere over here, which is sad, but as I said, I expected. We knew about the autofocus issues. Go back to this photo, and I used pinpoint focus. And when this loads, look how sharp that is. And that was an 85mm at about 1.5 metres away. That's a really sharp photo. Pinpoint is very good. If you really want something, as it says, pinpoint, you want something to be bang on, tack sharp, and you can afford the time to use it, I would work the camera. This is a professional camera. Work it. Use pinpoint if you can use it. Because as you just saw, I got perfectly in focus there, which I did not have when I used the 3D tracking. But I don't mind this. I don't mind working with it. And this isn't a fast-paced scenario. This isn't sport. So everyone gets hung up on this lock-on tracking and the 3D tracking not working as well as Canon's. Use the camera, use the tool, and there is other options than just that. Here, again, I want to show this, just phenomenal colour definition. I love this. It came out really nice. Again, this was using pinpoint lock-on, and pinpoint, I got a nice definition to all of that flower. It came out really nice. I've been using the wide angle, so the large area autofocus. It gives you a bigger box, and in that bigger box, it gives you an area for the autofocus to work to. It's not a tiny box, it's a fairly big box, but it means that it doesn't want to jump across the viewfinder to somewhere else. It gives you an area. Now, I know that Canon doesn't need that area, but it's a really easy workaround, and I promise you it doesn't cost you a lot of time. I find that I can use that box quite nicely, and it gives me a lot better results. So that might be the way I go. Again, this is another one. 3D tracking. That's not in focus. That rock is there, or the ground is, but that's not in focus. I use pinpoint, and when it loads, that is definitely in focus. That's sharp. And as I say, if you can afford to use the pinpoint, or you can afford to use the single point, and you can be more specific with it, or even if you can just use the wide area box, you get better results. Now here we go. This was just the off-the-cuff shot I took of a car moving, and as you can see, the car is nicely in focus, the background's nicely in blur, and that composition. I love the colour composition of the Nikon. I can't say it enough. I think it just looks really nice. It's got a bit of that cinematography to it. And then here, again, pinpoint, brought out perfectly what I wanted in focus. Got right on the end of his nose. When I didn't use pinpoint, I tried the same shot again, and I'll go back to there. And again, we were getting the mouse, we were getting parts of the cabinet more in focus. So that wide area box, the pinpoint focus, the single point focus, they work really well. I will say the refocus, when it comes to refocusing on 20 frames a second, that refocusing on 20 frames a second, that's good. It actually worked really nicely, and if you got the first one in focus, so if you're doing your job properly behind the camera, the soft bit of flesh does what he should do, or she should do. If that first one's in focus, it tracks nicely. It's just trying to get it on there to begin with. You just need to give it a little bit more help. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to use the other options that Nikon give you in the camera. It's well worth doing. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. There will be more to come. I'm going to do some reviews on the other lenses and some of the reviews on the primes. Living day to day with it. The last thing I'll say about the battery life, depending how you use it, depends how quickly it burns down. I take 2 batteries with me. I've done full days hiking with it. I've not needed more than 3 batteries. I've not needed more than 2 batteries. It's not that bad. I think in the real world, you're really pulling hairs if you want to say the batteries. Having a couple of batteries on you is too much. The amount of gear we take with us as photographers, I think having 2 batteries really isn't that big a problem. So yeah, that is it. We'll be doing the review on the 3 primes. I'll try and do some more on that 24 to 120. I'm trying to find an area where I might like it. And I'm going to do a bigger set on the F to Z mounts. So using my older 200, 70 to 200 and 24 to 70. And I think, watch this space, I want to get the 14 to 24. I really do, but in the Z. I was going to get it in the F, but there's no way now. I've looked at both of them, tried them both out. I will be getting it in the Z mount at some point, possibly before the next video. In the next month, I reckon we'll probably have that one, and we'll have a video up on that because I've been told that's very good. Very, very good. And then I got muddied water because I think Tamron are going to be bringing out, and to be honest, Tamron definitely are in bed with Nikon. We all know this. Tamron have got some really cool things coming out, like a 35-2. I think it's a 35 to 180, 2 to 2.8. Don't quote me on that. Which looks exciting. The possibility of having between, or it could be a 24 to. I'm going to have to look it up again, but the possibility of having that 2 aperture in the low end, moving to a 2.8 at the high end, that's pretty cool. So we'll see what comes. But anyway, from me, the Snap Happy 80s love child, TTFN, ta-ta for now, guys.